Right? So my original start was with Mike. He gave me the jiu-jitsu bug 14 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since, except for, when I'm injured. But now I actually run my own 10th Planet School down in Florida. So we're running classes now. We've been there for 2 years. It's been amazing. When I started day one, I never had any aspirations of being a coach, running a gym, any of that stuff. I was just doing it as something to do to have fun, because I don't like lifting weights or running. So, so we got into jiu-jitsu and it went from there. So today I was going to play around with a kind of a starting position that kind of leads into a lot of different avenues, right? It kind of becomes a choose your own adventure. But it's a position that seems like a really bad position until you understand it, and then you realize all the opportunities it opens up. And from a no-gi perspective, it works out really well because it gives you a lot of control, which is one of the things that's really hard to do no-gi, right? When you got the gi on, it's great. You can just grab that sleeve. One hand, usually, you can control the guy pretty well. One hand in no-gi doesn't do anything for you. So there's a couple exceptions to that. We'll talk about that, but a lot of times, we're always hunting for multiple hands, multiple legs on an extremity or something to be able to control the person, to be able to get what we need, right? So they don't just slip away constantly from us. So that being said, I can take this a few different avenues. And I wanted to kind of leave it a little bit up to you guys as to where we take this adventure. Because I can show you all kinds of crazy stuff, especially from like the 10th Planet system, if you guys are interested in rubber guard and things like that. And I can show you how to do rubber guard even if you don't have flexibility. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, I can't do that. Like, yeah, you can. I'll show you exactly how to do it from like just a modified side full guard position. That'll make it work for you. So you don't have to be crazy flexible. If you are, it makes it way easier. But if you're not, we can still make it work. I'm also big on legs. I'm a leg lock guy. So we can take it down that avenue as well. That is a lot of my game, is a back and forth between rubber guard, leg locking, and everything from the bottom. From the top, it's much different, but we're going to kind of play from this bottom position a little bit, just kind of showing some avenues from there that are going to lead into things. So are you guys more interested? Because I'll start with either one, and if we have time, we'll do both. But inevitably, I like to start down a way, and I get to talking, and I go down a tangent. Sometimes we don't make it back to the other one. So it's just how it goes. So just show of hands, who would prefer the rubber guard pathway? All right, that was an easy decision. Then we'll go red ones. Awesome. All right, so easy enough. So can I use you for this, Shane? So where we're going to start is he's going to be standing. And I'm going to be playing from this seated guard position. So, and at the end, we're going to tie this into what we can do, standing against an opponent as well. So you don't think all of us 10th Planet guys are butt scooters. We're not. So, but it starts to make a little bit more sense with where we're playing from here. So typically when someone's trying to pass your guard, and they're standing and I'm sitting, the first thing is usually he's not going to be real nice and line up squared up to me, because that just gives me his legs, right? And this is one of the things we'll be talking about with the leg lock entries, is anytime I can get him to step forward with that leg and square up, like this is easy entries for me all day, every day, right? So one of my goals when I'm trying to get started into these leg entries is to get him to square up like that, right? So he knows that, or at least he does now. So, right? So he's not going to just walk up and give me, that squared up position. So this is where then we have to start figuring out how we're going to get to that position. So the first place I'm trying to get to is what we call a shin to shin, which is shin to shin, right? This is the attachment I'm trying to get. Now I can get this attachment a couple of different ways. The easiest one is if he's one of those guys who likes to pass by doing the fast stepping, if you know what I mean. So he's trying to pass just with his legs and kind of step around and pass around. So he's bringing his legs to me first as he comes in, as opposed to being low and bringing his hands to me first. Does that make sense? Because this is the two ways they're going to come at you. They're either going to come in tall, bringing their legs to you first, or he's going to come in low, bringing his head and his hands to you first. Right? So we're going to talk about both scenarios. We're going to talk about the legs first because that's the easy one, and then we'll come back and talk about when he brings the head and arms in and some options off of that, right? But he's coming in. When he makes his stance, I'm going to mirror his stance. So whatever foot he has forward, I'm going to put my foot forward on the same side, and my other side is here. And the reason for that is this starts to funnel him into the direction I want him to go, right? If I'm like this, he can go any direction he wants. He can cut this way, cut that way, go around. When I start to come in this way, I start to funnel him in this direction. Because right now, for him to try to cross step with that leg all the way over here is a big move. Does that make sense? So if we go back, so if he tries to bring that left leg and step all the way across, it's an easy back take. Right? Don't make this mistake once or twice and be like, oh crap, I'm never doing that again. Right? So, so this starts to give me this funneling into this system where I know he's going to move in this direction. Right? So this becomes the play. Now, I can either move in to try to get a hold of him, or I can wait for him to move to me. Where I know he's going to move next is he's going to try to own this inside space. He's going to try to step in here. Where he ultimately wants to be is right here, in between both of my legs, because now he's past my feet and he's starting to make his passing, right? We pass the ankles, the knees, to get to the hips and get to our side control, right? So I play it this way so that now when he steps in the center, he doesn't have a true inside space connection, right? He's here. So now as he's stepping in, all I'm looking to do is prevent him from penetrating with this knee right away. And it's as simple as this. This is all I need, is just a temporary block so I can get my foot in place, right, to get to my shin to shin. Once I get to my shin to shin, now I'm looking to gain control of the backside of his knee, right? And so I'm here. This way now I have opposing controls on his leg. If I'm here, he can obviously just step back and disengage, right? If I just have this, he can obviously just keep coming forward. But now I'm blocking the outside and the back, and I'm blocking the inside and the front. This leg is now mine, right? You can try to take it away. Go ahead and move around. Right? It's now my leg, right? So, and from here I'm keeping an active butterfly, meaning my heel is on the floor, but as he moves, my goal is to keep my shin to his shin. So if he picks it up and moves it, I move it with him, and it automatically starts to off-balance him and starts to give me my entries. Does that make sense? Right? So, so we're getting to this spot. And once I get here, my play now for this first part is we're going to do just a basic Ashi entry or a single leg X. We rename everything in 10th Planet, so I'll try to remember all the dual names to everything. But if you're like, what is that? Like Eddie has to rename everything. It's just a disease he has, I don't know. But we rename everything. So, so what we're going to do from here is I'm merely going to get him to step forward with that leg. Right? And the way I'm going to do that is really complicated. Alright? I just hang on his knee, pull him forward, make him take a step. Now that he's taken this step, I'm going to fall to my right shoulder. As I fall to my right shoulder, I'm picking his foot up off the mat to start off balancing him. Makes this leg light, puts all his weight into this leg, which is what I want. I block the front of this leg so that he doesn't move it, because that gives me some options later on, some other places I can go. But for now, just know we want to block this leg, right? So I'm blocking, falling, lifting. I pull his leg into my armpit, I shoot my legs up, right? When I do this, I'm bringing both of my knees to my chest at the same time, right? I'm not coming here and then trying to find my way up, or worse yet, I see people trying to do this and then pull themselves up into position. I'm just bringing both knees to my chest, shoot my hips up, and I lock in. This top leg is driving down into his thigh, which holds me in position. This foot goes underneath his far buttocks, and I'm driving my knee across my ankle to protect this. Because the first thing he's going to want to do is just peel this foot right off his hip. Right? So when I get here, I'm blocking and covering so that now when he tries to go push that foot off his hip, it's not as easy of a deal, right? That's what I'm looking for. So from here, I'm pinching, holding, I've got all of this in play, and all we're gonna do from here to start with is just a simple sweep from here. So all I'm doing is pinching his leg, and I turn both of my knees to the outside. I do not push away. If I push away, it allows him to escape his leg as he falls. I want to keep all this tight as I drive my knees to the mat. When his knee gets outside of his ankle, he has no choice but to fall, right? So we're just getting to here. So we're gonna run through that whole thing again. So we're here, he's in his staggered stance, we're playing this way. We're mirroring him, he steps to the inside. I'm just blocking that knee for a second so he doesn't instantly start knee cutting on me, right? If I need to, if he steps deeper, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. Right? I just remove my hips from the situation, get my foot back in place. Right? So we're just coming in here. I grab right behind his knee, my elbow is inside my knee. You leave it out here, he's gonna grab a Kimura. Right? It's in here, where it's safe. Right? So from here, I'm bringing my foot to the inside, and this is gonna lead us into the next position that's gonna lead us down a rabbit hole here in a minute. But this is gonna get us to a position we call the mini stomp. But from here, once I get to this spot, I'm falling to my right shoulder as I block that far leg, right? So I want him to step forward though, because right now it's way back there, right? So all I'm doing is planting, pulling, make him take the step, right? Block, fall, lift. Hold into my armpit, both knees come up, and I grab. This leg's pulling down, this one foot's on the far hip, knees covering the ankle, we're here. I block his ankle, I turn my knees out to the mat for the sweep. Cool? All right, let's grab a partner, let's play with that, and we'll build off of it. 3, 2, 1.
Yep, probably.
Knees fall to the outside. So that leaves your heel exposed one. The other thing is like as he lands, like when you get to a heel hook, your single leg X is like that. He can just feel it spin. Your foot's stuck in his other hip as he tries to spin, he just spins. So have it kind of like that.
So it would be here, and then this is more straight down. This is here. This is all to that side. So, I think I used to straighten my legs a little bit too. Bring it up. So this is more just a dump.
Maybe just my kneecaps are up. So now. Right. If you want this one over your chest, so maybe just one stays outside. Lift the hips.
There you go. Yeah, so just be careful you guys are breaking it.
Yeah, drive his knee, you're gonna kind of drive his knee over.
Just make sure that foot that's on his hip, put the boot on it.
Oh, okay.
Right? Point your toe, that's it. Making sense? Okay. So the biggest thing with this is, and really, I mean, jiu-jitsu as a whole, right, is if you think about it as anytime he is off balance, all he is concerned about is getting his balance back, right? The falling man is only concerned about falling. He's not concerned about attacking, defending, doing anything else but getting his base back, right? So my goal is to get him off balance as quick as possible, so he's constantly searching for his base while I start attacking him and moving him around. Make sense? Right? So again, I'm gonna run through it, kind of more, full speed of what it looks like, and then we're gonna make it a little more complicated by adding in this mini stomp position that I like to play from now. and go from there. And you'll see why we play from that. So, so once I get my shin to shin, right, we're coming in, we're here. I make him take the step. We're here, and he's down, right? This is what I'm looking for to get to this spot, right? So now if we go back, if life always worked that way, right? So a lot of times what happens is I get to this shin to shin and I catch here, and he'll immediately start trying to knee cut on me, right? Because he's like, well, I know he's going to try to off balance with me and get to that ashi and, or that single leg X and play from there. So he starts knee cutting across. So when he does this, all I'm going to do is hug the back of his leg with my inside leg, and I'm still falling to my shoulder here. Now I'm blocking the inside of his knee because I want to, again, keep his weight over here, right? So right now his knee is on my chest because I'm hugging his leg, right? So it's on my stomach. I've got my butterfly still. I'm connected here so he can't get his leg back, right? Again, no gi. I've got to have multiple controls to keep control, right? So I'm blocking here so he can't drop this knee in and start trying to do stuff here. And I'm keeping this control. From here, I'm going to do the same thing to get right back to the same position. Only now his foot comes off. I lift him up. This goes right to my armpit and I come back up. Right? And now I'm right back to the same position. So his one major way that he can try to kill my shin to shin just leads him right back to the same trap. Make sense? Right? And then we dump him again. So we're going to add to this. We're going to add the heel hook onto the end. So we're going to add the mini stomp and we're going to add the heel hook. So when I get to this spot, I'm going to attack this outside heel hook. So anytime I'm attacking the outside versus the inside, what we're playing against is how much his ankle moves. Right? So your ankle doesn't move real far this way. So inside heel hooks are easier to finish, but they're harder positions to get. Outside heel hooks are easier to get to, harder to finish. And it's because of how much motion he has in his ankles, right? So now, before we get into the rest of it, we're just gonna sit here. So when I'm trying to attack, this leg lock, I'm actually attacking two joints at the same time. I'm attacking his ankle and his knee, right? I don't care which one blows out first, which one he taps to, I don't care, right? He tapped, right? It's like choking someone, they go, oh dude, that was more of a crank. I don't care, right? You tapped, didn't you? Like, cool, right? So whether or not it's a choke or a crank, a lot of times has more to do with them than it does you. It's how they position their head, it's how they were defending that put them into a crank more than a choke. I don't care if you choked or you cranked. You tapped, right? So I got the submission. I had the position to control the submission. It's the same here. I don't care if it's your ankle or your knee that blows out. For you, you better hope it's your ankle, because this one really sucks, right? But in order to do this, I need to get these joints in a position where they're compromised, right? So when his knee is straight, when I try to attack his knee, these ligaments on the side, knee bar is a little different, but when I'm attacking these ligaments on the side, there's no pressure on his ligaments because his knee is locked out. So I need a bend in his knee to start attacking these ligaments in here, okay? So what people worry about is bending the knee to get a bend in the knee. What I want you guys to think about is using the ankle to unlock the knee. Okay? And what I mean is if I take his foot and I start bending it in, he wants to relieve that pressure, and the only way he can is by bending his knee. Otherwise, his ankle pops. Does that make sense? So when I go to attack this heel hook, my goal is to do this to his foot, right? I'm going to do that with a grip that looks like this on his leg. So in order to get his foot to look like this with my arm wrapped around it means I have to position my body underneath his foot. So when we land in this ashi, what I'm looking to do is to get this bite on his heel. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing my wrist, so right at the base of my thumb, and I'm putting it right at the base of his heel. Okay, I'm not putting it in my elbow. This is all flesh. You know, it's your forearm and your bicep, and I don't care how, you know, rock solid your muscles are, they're muscles, right? They slip. This doesn't slip. Okay? So I want this. It's gonna feel really weird to you if you haven't done heel hooks before, because it's gonna feel like you don't have control. But as you get to playing with this, you'll understand where the control is coming from, and this will become more natural, right? So if you look, his toes are on my about mid bicep. They're not all the way tucked up in my armpit, right? Which is what you'll see a lot of people talk about, put the toes in your armpit. That actually doesn't give you the right position, and you're gonna slip off these outside heel hooks. And this is why you'll see a lot of guys fail at these outside heel hooks in competition, right? But we have one of our black belts from Atlanta, Sean Applegate, that he goes over this extensively. And his guys are some of the best guys out there right now in the no-gi game. They're absolutely killing it, and they're beating everybody with outside heel hooks. And it's because of this detail, right? So when I go to put his foot in that position we were just talking about, which is gonna bend his knee, I do that by bringing my elbow into my ribs and then down to my hip. So that means I have to get on my shoulder, right? So I do this. Does that make sense? Right? So now I'm under his foot. Right? Now his foot has that exact bend we were just talking about, and he can feel the pressure on his ankle. He doesn't like it. Right? And when I do this right, all I need is a counter pressure to break his knee. I don't even have good control right now. I haven't connected my hands. I haven't enlaced his leg, right? I'm just pushing his knee back the opposite direction, and I can get a tap, right? When I add back in our positioning, and we're here, now without connecting my hands, and with connecting my hands, it gets worse, right? I'm sure Mike's talked about this. When you do a submission, your goal when you're drilling is 10% effort. Because then I have 90% less to break you, right? If I'm having to use 90 to 100% to tap you drilling, no way that's working live, right? So I want to be in a position where 10% effort starts to get you to go, oh, I don't like this, right? Because then that tap's coming quick. And that's through the control, right? So we're gonna back up a shade because this is a lot of detail I know I just threw at you. So we're gonna work on just the finish, and then we're gonna go back and add in the mini stomp, and then we're gonna put it all together. Make sense? So let's do this first. So what I want you to do is we're gonna work on getting to this position. So he's on his butt, his legs are out here. We're in that ashi position, right? You know, and now we're working on getting our hands in position. So all I want you to do is you're gonna take the hand that's closest to him, you're gonna reach under and pull that foot out. So I put his toes right there on that bicep, and I pull that out to expose his heel. Coming underneath, and I'm connecting my wrist right there at the base of his heel. Right? So we're in here. So now I'm bringing my elbow into my ribs and down to my hip to get to this spot. Right? From here, I still have my position with my legs. I'm connecting my hands and bringing my hands to my nose. And now it's just a simple hip forward for the finish. Right? Go slow, be careful. Right? This one gets real tight, real quick when you do it right. Right? You saw how little effort I was using, right? Don't get in there and start hipping in like it's an arm bar. Right? Your training partners won't like you anymore. Right? So we got it, and you see it again.
I'd like to see your hands one more time if you can.
Absolutely. All right, so again, we're here. I'm reaching, pulling this out, getting my wrist underneath this heel. Right? From here, I'm bringing my elbow to my hip and into my ribs. Connect my hands, bring my fist to my nose, and then the hip in for the finish. Okay? Let's play with it. It's kind of hard to more jiu-jitsu on the top of the foot. Settle back and just stretch your head out. Try to cross. Get it all. What we want to do is we want to turn that way just a little bit. We want to get
Turn the top of his foot toward you. You may have to rotate just a little bit. Good. Get his toes back underneath your arms. There you go. Now, you're going to take this part of your elbow in the pit as much. Right.
I think that's made it a lot tighter.
Instinct is to pull your head away. Keep this tight. Right? And this gives him space. Yeah, it's one of those wonderful jiu-jitsu positions where it feels like you don't have anything, but yet you're having a lot. So,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Get my position right there in the wrist. Here's the grip.
Now, slowly bring your hips.
Think about
Okay, because I was pulling the other way. Driving that way, and then hip. Okay. So we got put.
I'm just going to position. I'm not going to fall.
Almost all they're saying with that right arm.
I slide it forward just a little.
Yeah. It felt like to me I could expose it deeper.
Now, Ezekiel, now what I want you to do is I want you to pick your elbow. Time, let's bring it in. Questions? All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show a better way to expose the heel using our whole body instead of just our upper body, which I think will help some of you guys who are still struggling with that. And then we're going to go back and combine it back in with that mini stomp situation we were talking about, right? So go ahead and sit down for me. So we're going to start here again with this, right? So for those of you who are having a hard time like getting this exposure and getting under the leg and getting under the heel. Another way I can expose this is by moving my body, right? And this actually comes into play, especially in this, the single leg X, or we call it ashi position, because when we land here, he knows this control is not good. And he's gonna start trying to push my foot off his hip, hop his hips over and start escaping, right? So anytime he does that, and he starts to push on my foot, I just drive my knee in that direction. So I keep my knee attached to my heel. Right? That prevents him from peeling that foot off of his hip. It also allows me to expose his heel. Right? So now all I'm doing is I'm elbowing his little toe. And I'm wrapping my hand around it. Right? So I'm here. Now as I go back to the mat, I do the same thing we were doing before. I bring that elbow in, go to my shoulder, so my elbow's to my hip, and we're back right in that same spot to hit that finish. Right? So we're here, he pushes the foot, I just drive my knee to the mat. Right? Now I'm still connected to his hip. He can't get his hip out. Now there's no way for him to do it that way. He has to come up with another solution. Right? Now I post on my head, elbow his little toe, wrap around his heel, bring it in, and we finish right here. Right? Cool. So now we're going to combine that, go ahead and stand up, with this mini stomp. Right? So bring me this leg forward, just so we're doing the same side everybody's on. Right? So we get to that shin to shin, we're here, he starts doing that knee cut we talked about. He's trying to do this game, right? So I just fall back. I get my foot on top of his leg, I'm still hugging here, and I start rolling to this inside. As I roll to the inside, it brings his knee back up on top of me. Right? That's what I want. If it's over here, it's going to be hard to get back to my ashi. Here, I can do it. Right? So we're here, I just spin under it. That's all it takes to get his knee back up on top. Right? I'm pushing him this direction to keep him leaning this way. Now my foot comes off, I lift, and I come back to my ashi. Knees to the outside, I can come right up, catch, and we finish. Right? Let's do it again. So we're shin to shin, he starts knee cutting. Follow my back, start to spin my head towards the inside. Gets his knee back on my stomach, right? Pushing this knee, foot comes off, I lift, ashi. No, up, catch, drive, finish. Need to see it again?
I see the lift.
What's that?
The lift detail.
Yep. So we're here, the knee cuts, I'm just spinning under.
You're wanting the centered, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's here, I have no ashi. Right? This isn't horrible. Right? But I don't have ashi. Right? So I'm just bringing my head to the inside to bring his knee back up on my stomach. Right? And I'm pushing here. Now I lift, come back, he's immediately going to find his base. Right? As soon as he's finding his base, here. I'm on my head, I'm elbowing that little toe and coming around. Whoop. Catch it. Right? So we're just like this. Wrist to the heel. See all this space? This is where it's going to feel like you don't have any control. That's why I have to bring my elbow into my ribs, into my hip. Now it's locked in. Now we're finished. Does that make sense? Let's try it. 3, 2, 1.
I've noticed. I lost, but I missed.
Questions on that?
Back each time.
Okay. Any questions? Nothing? I must be really good at this. All right. So, a couple of things I've heard people asking me, all right, is if I get him and we get down here and I start coming up to look for this, one question I was asked is, what if he crosses his ankles? He's like, oh, I'll hide that foot from him, right? I go, well, that's not there now, right? That's fine. I just sit around the corner, this heel hook instead. Right? This is why I love the leg lock game, because all the leg locks interchange. If I don't have one, I have another. And I can just keep chasing heel hooks. Right? I was also asked to sit down. I was also asked defense-wise, right? He's like, what if they pop the foot off and they start hopping over? Right? They beat you to it. Right? I have a couple of options. And this is going to depend on if he hopped all the way over or if he hopped on top of my foot. And this is why when you're defending, the better option is to sit on the foot. And the reason is because right here, I can simply bring this foot up in the inside, this one comes to the outside, and I basically have like a reverse ashi, and I can still hit the same finish. Right? My other option when he hops over from here is I can still drive my knee to the mat, and then I back step across. And now I have 411, honey hole, whatever you want to call this, and I have both of his legs. Right? So when he's defending, the best option is to hop on top of my foot, grab my head, and start coming up to put weight into this foot. Right? This starts to help him. But if we go back, we were talking about when we fall, blocking this far leg. This is where this comes in. And we're not going to practice all this. I'm just showing you. This will all be on video and all of this. It'll be on my our YouTube page for the gym. You can go on there and watch it as many times as you want. Right? But when I get here, all I'm going to do is kick him forward. Come under, and I'm back into both legs. Right? So this becomes one of the things where I can just chain leg attacks on top of each other. I attack this, you defend, I go to this, I go to that, I go to this, I go to that. I can go back and forth. I can just switch entanglements on this side, you know, and I just keep going after the leg entanglement. Right? So it's why I like it. And when you're defending, you either have to give me your other leg, a different entanglement on the same leg, or you have to expose your back. Right? There's very few escapes from leg locks where you're not doing one of those three things. So if I understand that, once I enter a leg attack, I just keep attacking until I find a finish. Make sense? Cool. Any questions before we move on? All right. So we've talked about, we've gotten all the way from, we went all the way around and back to what I initially wanted to start with, which was that mini stomp position. So now we're going to play with a couple other options off of this mini stomp. We're going to take the mini stomp to half guard, and the way we play half guard, no-gi, which is lockdown. We're going to talk about that lockdown a little bit and what may be different from the way you guys have been shown to play it. And a lot of that's gi to no-gi variation, and a lot of it's depending on what you're trying to do with it, right? A lot of people use the lockdown as merely a way to keep the guy from smashing you. We use it as a way to attack everything. So we'll talk about getting to there, and then we'll also talk about, I showed it just a minute ago, about coming up and hitting what we call the dogfight position, or wrestling up and starting to take the back and options there. But we'll do the lockdown first, right? So we're going to start the same way. I've managed to get to this shin to shin. He starts knee cutting. I fall back, I catch, I spin under, I get here, right? I've shelved it. So from here, if I want to go to my half guard game, to my lockdown, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let go with my hand, and I'm going to extend my legs until his knee hits the mat. Right? So usually in this spot, he's not going to be sitting back. He's going to come in. Right? He wants to stay tight to me. So when I get him in this situation, I'm looking for these double underhooks. And from here, this is the spot everybody messes up when they go lockdown, because they start trying to get this lockdown bite right now, but I'm flat on my back. All right, this is not half guard. If you play half guard flat on your back, you're getting passed. Right? I don't want to play on my back. I want to be on my side. So if I go back, once I extend him and I get his knee to the mat, I'm just simply going to bring my knees to my chest, and I'm using my hands to push him up overhead. Now I get my lockdown. And watch what I do. My knees are pinched. I circle both feet to the inside. My outside foot goes behind my inside foot. My inside foot comes under his ankle. All right, so we're here. I circle, connect. From here, my right arm's going under his leg. My left arm's coming around his waist. And I land to the inside, completely under his hips. Right? The first thing he's going to want to try to do here is cross face me. Right? If he can cross face me and he can flatten me, do it. Flatten me back out, he can start passing again. What prevents the cross face is I simply get my feet off the mat. Cross face me. And he sweeps himself. All right? Let's go back and do that all again. So we're here. He starts knee cutting on me. Boom. I get here, knee back on the belly. All right? I extend my legs till his knee starts to go to the mat. He wants to drive into me, stay tight, so we're here. From here, I'm bringing my knees to my chest, guiding him up overhead. Both of my feet circle to the inside, my outside foot behind my inside foot to get my lockdown. Right arm digs under the leg, left arm around the waist. He starts to cross face me, I pick my feet up and I swing him to the outside. Thanks for the sweep. Right? He's doing the right thing, trying to flatten me back out. But because I didn't start flat on my back, I waited to get my lockdown until I was completely underneath him. He sweeps himself. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Need to see it again?
It's at least, yeah.
Okay. So we're here, he cuts, catch, here. Extend the legs. We're here, he dives in, I bring my knees to my chest. Both feet circle in, right arm under the waist, left arm, or right arm under the leg, left arm around the waist, we're here. He starts to cross face, I pick my feet up, I spin him to the outside. That's it. All right? Yep. Let's do it, 3, 2, 1.